So guys, I have finally finished one of the most intimidating trilogies that has ever been published, the Lord of the Rings. This was a really fun ride for me to actually do, and I am so happy that I have completed the trilogy. So yeah, with all that out the way, let's get straight to the video. Okay, so what I really enjoyed about this book is, sorry, what? You thought that I was going to take the ring off and I was going to magically reappear again? Well, I suppose I could do that. I mean, I was really thirsty, so I wanted to get a drink, but I'm always here to satisfy my lovely subscribers. So this is especially for you guys. There we go, satisfied. But yeah, with all seriousness, this has been a really fun experience for me, and on to the video. Hi guys, my name is David and welcome back to my channel. So as you can probably tell from that introduction that I did, the book that I am obviously going to be talking about today is The Return of the King, which is the third and final book in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. This is a really important series for me, or trilogy of books, because in fact the very first ever buddy read and collaboration that I did on this channel was with the very first book, The Fellowship of the Ring, which I did with Kayla Lenz in, I think it was last year. That was a really fun experience. Apart from it being the first ever buddy read that I did with a fellow booktuber, and I consider Kayla to be a friend of mine as well, it was immensely enjoyable to read that book with her, as the book was amazing, and to also get her opinions on it. But at that point, I was under the assumption that me and Kayla was going to do a buddy read on the entirety of the trilogy, but before we was about to read The Two Towers, she told me that she had listened to part of it on audio, and that it wasn't her cup of tea and she wasn't enjoying it, so I decided to read the Two Towers anyway, by myself, and I also read The Return of the King by myself. It would have been better if, I mean, in my opinion, if we buddy read the entirety of the trilogy, but as I said, she wasn't enjoying it and I didn't want to force her to, but it would have been nice for us to complete these series of books together. So this book was published on the 20th of October 1955, and I was completely shocked when I discovered that these books were published in the 50s. As the writing style isn't difficult to understand, it is really easy and fun to read, so I recommend this to anyone that's interested in fantasy. But it goes super in depth. What Tolkien did, he didn't just merely write or wrote 3 books, he created a whole world, a whole civilization, and a whole breathing universe that was inhabited by men, dwarves, elves, orcs, dragons, all that type of stuff. And he embodied all them with cultures and backgrounds and histories and lore. It is so rich and detailed, it really is, and it was a really fun experience going through these books, as I've said numerous times. So before I get into telling you what the book is all about, I usually say here that this is going to be a spoiler-free video, but because this book is over 70 years old, or around about 70 years old, and because Lord of the Rings is embodied in our pop culture, and if you haven't read the books, then chances are that you have watched the movies by Peter Jackson and or the animated movies that are floating around out there. So this video is going to be a mashup between a review video and a discussion video. And as always, this is going to be my own thoughts and feelings regarding this book. I know that people are intimidated by this book. I've heard that so many times. But you shouldn't be intimidated by this book. Lengthwise, it's the average size of a normal book. They're about 400 pages long each. But if you like fantasy, whether it's high fantasy or YA fantasy, or fantasy in general, then you owe yourself to read this book, or read this series of books. Yes, I know that they are massive, like if you put them all together, and it is intimidating that way, but if you read them one by one, like the Fellowship of the Ring, then the Two Towers, then the Return of the King, then it isn't that bad. But in short, if you like fantasy, then you owe yourself personally to read this book. So when it comes to comparing the book to the movie, there isn't much of a difference. The movie follows the book more or less page for page. There isn't much that actually happens within this that is different from the movie, and I do mean the extended version. But of course there is different stuff that is actually in this book that isn't in the movie. So the book Return of the King is a direct continuation, obviously, from the last book, The Two Towers, and we see Sam and Frodo making their way to Mordor, or they're just on the edge of Mordor, and they go into the tunnel with Gollum, and Gollum's just telling them that this is a secret place, and they were attacked by the giant spider Shelob. And Sam was courageous, and he stood up and fought for his friend Frodo. But Frodo was attacked in this battle, and Sam thought that Frodo was dead. So Sam took up the ring and he said, right, my friend has died, so I have to complete this mission and destroy this ring. But he found out that Frodo was only temporarily stunned, and he was taken to one of the towers in the land of Mordor itself, and Sam had to go and rescue his friend Frodo, which he obviously did, and and it's just about their journey through the land of Mordor towards the mammoth that is Mount Doom, to destroy this one ring in the fires of that mountain. But it is a really treacherous slog for them, and Frodo and Sam are both exhausted, but they both know that when they destroy this ring, or actually if they do, then the chances of them surviving this or going back to the Shire afterwards is extremely remote. They actually don't think that they will survive this, and they certainly don't think that they will ever see their beloved homeland ever again. So that is our main storyline for The Return of the King. So while this is all going on, our other main characters, Aragorn, Gimli, Legolas, and Gandalf, are all trying to prepare for the massive battle at the end, which is the Battle of the Ring. And the battles in this book are extremely exciting. I listened to part of this on audio, and merely using the words exciting isn't enough to actually describe the battle scenes within this book. Even using the word epic doesn't even scratch the surface. Oh my god, the battle scenes in this book are extremely exciting and thrilling, and they will blow you away. Loads of people get killed within these battles, and the imagery that comes into your mind as you're reading them are extremely vivid, and it is a thrill to get through. The other two hobbits, Merry and Pippin, are in two different locations at this point. At the end of the events from the Two Towers, Pippin has been taken with Gandalf to Gondor, which is just on the border of Mordor. And there he has been, because Gondor is this massive city, this main city within Middle Earth, I think it is. And he has been put into the service of the steward of Gondor, as Gondor doesn't have a king anymore, because the king was killed in the original Battle of the Ring, when the ring was cut off from Sauron's finger, and Gondor doesn't actually have a king. So the rights of the king has been given to his right-hand man, the steward, which isn't the rightful king, but he does the job, and he is the ruler of this city. I cannot remember the name of the steward, but he is the father of Boromir, which is constantly referred to in this book as well. Pippin tells the steward how Boromir was a hero, and he stood up and protected him and his friends amongst all these orcs, and how he died a hero. And he is also the father of Faramir. Now Faramir, I wouldn't say he disliked Faramir as a son, but he thinks that he prefers Boromir. He prefers Boromir as a son, and he sometimes says that he wishes that Faramir died and Boromir lived, which is an upsetting thing. Faramir is, I think he's, I won't say better in this book, but I liked him as a character. He isn't a bad character, but he tries to do the right thing all the time. And Pippin has been put into the service of the stewards. He's pretty much been made a soldier for this city. And within the movie, he is very reluctant about this, and he is very down about this, and he doesn't like it. But within the book, it gave me the impression that he liked this position, and he even has a deep respect and loyalty towards the steward. He sees him as this leader, or that's the impression that the book gave me, and that he would be willing to do anything for the steward and to protect the city of Gondor. And the same could be said for Merry, which is currently residing in Rohan with King Theoden. He is extremely faithful to that king, or King Theoden, and he wants to go off to the battle, but the king says, well, like, you're small, and you'll be like a hindrance to us. But he gives him a sword, and he tries to encourage it anyway. But the loyalty that these two hobbits have towards their leaders and their cities that they've found themselves in is extremely touching, and the loyalty that they give to these leaders is off the charts and off the wall. Their character arc is extremely immense from the second book, where they were normal hobbits, where they were sitting and drinking and being lazy and doing what hobbits normally do. But within this book, they have decided, right, no nonsense, we're on the edge of war here, we've got to help Frodo, which they're constantly thinking about, and we have got to make a stand and participate and help our friend in some shape or form. So that is the main storyline of this book. It is a real thrill ride from start to finish. I did partially read this and listen to it on audio, and to put it bluntly, not just this book, but the whole trilogy has become one of my favourites ever, and it's really nostalgic. Probably because I did a buddy reads with the first one, and it's given me all them nice memories from that experience. But these books are like a nice journey. You feel that you have gone on this journey with Frodo and Sam. You have got to know all these great characters like Aragorn, which has become the rightful king of Gondor. That's the title of the book. And it's nice to see Aragorn taking up his rightful position of the true king of Gondor, and he knows that this is something that's been coming. He's been expecting it, and he wants it to happen. And it is a bit long, the process, when he's trying to become king, or well, we're not trying to become king, but after the battle and he's becoming king. It does drag out a little bit, but it's the title of the book, so I can forgive it for that. So as I said, that's the storyline. That's my experience with this book and with these and with this trilogy as a whole. And I did try to read the appendices at the back, but they are kind of extra stuff. They do not have much to do with the Return of the King storyline. They are more about the mythology and the legends and the history of Middle-earth and these characters that are in this world. But the reason why I DNF'd it, or I didn't finish, or that I put the book down and I didn't complete the appendices, which was upsetting, it's just that you have to be in the right frame of mind. It reads more or less like a textbook, or a history book rather, because that's what it's supposed to be. And you have to be in the right frame of mind in order to get through it. But when I reread the trilogy, then I will begin to the appendices after that. So what I liked about this book, can I say everything? Of course I like all the characters. It doesn't introduce new characters in this book. I think that the only new character that we are introduced to is the steward. I wouldn't say he is a bit mad, but he is very upset about the death of his son Boromir, and that puts him in a downward spiral. But he is trying to do his best for this city, which he is extremely passionate about and loyal to. And I actually liked all the battles. They were really, really cool. I liked this. This book is so good. I cannot express myself how good this book actually was. Not just the last book, but the whole trilogy. I liked pretty much everything within this book. And another thing that I liked about this book is that its portrayal of the aftermath of the battle. The battle itself, the main battle of the book, doesn't portray itself to be anything glorifying or good. It is very dark, it's very brutal. As I said, people do get killed, but the aftermath is also important because it's what happens after the battle, like who is affected by this battle, if people have died in this battle, and what happens to people's lives after this battle actually is ended, and how it affects their lives and how it affects their communities or their towns or their cities. And yes, it does linger on this for a bit, but the important thing is that it addresses this, and it also addresses that not everything is going to be all sunshine and daisies after the good guys have defeated the bad guys. It's not going to be all happy, and not everyone is going to have a happily ever after. But with that said, one of the things I disliked about this book, which was my main dislike, was the fact that when the hobbits do go back to the Shire, they come across a situation that was unexpected, that wasn't in the movie, and it kind of it gives you a punch in the gut feeling that they have gone through all this, and evil still exists in the world, and it's kind of like that extra unnecessary obstacle for them to come across. If you have read the book, you know what I'm talking about. But it was nice, I suppose. It was a nice thing. As I said, I did like this book. To be quite frankly, all the things that I disliked about this book, and the things, and all the characters and the events that I wasn't too fond about, only added to the charm of the book as a whole. So what am I going to rate The Return of the King? Obviously I'm going to give it a 5 stars out of 5, guys. This is going to be an easy rating for me. So The Return of the King, in fact the whole trilogy, gets full marks of 5 out of 5. If I can give it a 6 out of 5, then I will do that. So yeah, The Return of the King gets a 6 stars out of 5. So in conclusion, if you are one of these people that are intimidated by reading this trilogy, if you think that it's going to be too heavy of material for you to actually read, if you think it's going to be too complex for you to wrap your head around, even if you have never read much of high fantasy before, then I would completely dismiss your thoughts. If you want to read The Return of the King, then I would definitely do it. If you are still unsure whether you would like Tolkien's writing style, then I would definitely recommend that you read The Hobbit first, as it's kind of like a prequel to the Lord of the Rings rather. You can read the Lord of the Rings before The Hobbit, but I would recommend that you read The Hobbit first, especially if you aren't sure whether Tolkien's writing style is going to be your cup of tea or not. But with The Return of the King, as I said, if you like fantasy or if you are interested in fantasy, then I couldn't recommend this series enough. I love this series so much. If I can get one person to read this trilogy that's watching this video that is a bit nervous about reading it in the first place, then that would make it all worthwhile. So that's it, guys. That is my review for The Return of the King by JRR Tolkien. I will also have a link down below to my other 2 review videos that I did for books 1 and book 2, which are The Fellowship of the Ring, which I did as a collaboration with Kayla, and I will also have a link down below to her channel if you're interested. I would definitely recommend her channel, she's awesome. And I will also have a link down below to my review for The Two Towers, so in case you want to get my general thoughts and feelings about them 2 books, they are all spoiler free videos like all my other book review videos. If you have enjoyed this video, please give it a like, comment down below, let me know if you've read this book, if you are intimidated by it, if you have any questions about this book or this series as a whole, then please comment down below. If you have any questions about it, then I would be more than happy to answer your questions if I can. I'm not trying to pretend to be an expert in everything Tolkien related or Lord of the Rings related. I've only read this trilogy once, but if you have any questions, let me know down below and I will do my best to answer them. If you have enjoyed this video as a whole, then please consider subscribing to my channel. And if you do, please click on that bell so it reminds you about whenever I upload videos, which are every Monday and Friday. And I will also have a link down below to my Goodreads account in case you want to follow me on Goodreads and see what I'm currently reading. And with all that out of the way, have a great day, read some awesome books, and I will see you all in my next video.